second to get the cameras all set up.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good day.
Everybody good?
Coach.
Okay.
Good, thanks.
All right, Coach, you want to start us off, and then we'll take questions?
All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. When I see all these friendly faces, it definitely shows a sign that the baseball season is here. And this is a good sign because we didn't get to do this in person last year. So it's good to get back to maybe some of the old ways. I know there's a new normal, but the old ways have been good to us. So we want to get back to some of those successful old ways. So week out from the season starting, and like we seem to do every other year, we take a trip, put this team on the road, and play really good competition, and then we're home for 18 straight home games. So it's an interesting start to the year, and in that time, we'll hash everything out. I can act like I know the exact starting lineup and the weekend rotation, and my favorite, usual, most popular question is who's the closer. But we like to let that play out. We obviously, have guys that have earned the right to start and to close and to get opportunities, and we need to make sure we take these first, 10 to 15 games before conference play and get the right guys in the right spot. And we feel really good. We feel really good about the talent that we have, and a lot of guys are still competing, for opportunities right now. But we like our talent on the mound, and we feel really good about what we're going to run out there offensively and work to score runs.
All right.
And you've talked a lot about competition since the end of last year, and
Yeah.
since that right after the ACC tournament. What have you learned about this team through competition in the fall and now in the spring?
Well, it's what they learn, and they have to understand it's probably the number one ingredient to getting better. It's the easy way. You wanna know you're the starting this, or you wanna have this position, and that's what you see on TV, and you see that star athlete that. But if you really talk to the star athletes, the Tom Bradys and those type of players, they go about it like they're fighting for their job every day, every season. And so when you're young, when you're an amateur, competition is the healthiest thing for them to improve and get better. And we just talked about that after one of the scrimmages this weekend, because we've got a lot of competition. And so that's what's exciting to see it unfold and see it play out this spring. And, there's going to be some new names and new faces that the college baseball world just not familiar with yet, but they will be. And so it's been very productive. It was a really good fall. We got to accomplish a lot. And this preseason so far, we've gotten in our scrimmages and our practices, and we've been outside. And, again, we're not a finished product yet, but we've learned a lot about this group.
Dan, obviously you guys missed the NCAA tournament last year, and you wanted to convey the message to the guys that, hey, this isn't happening again. For the returning players and even some of the newcomers to an extent, how do you think they received the message over the offseason and approaching into the preseason?
Well, there's two parts. There's the group that's sitting in this room last year, watching the selection show and not being selected and really making that your final end of the year meeting. And then you have the new group coming in that they weren't in this room for this, and they both benefit from that. I told all the new guys coming in, hey, this is a fun time to come into this program. You'd like to come in having just won the national championship or preseason number one, and you kind of stick your chest out because you're playing for that type of program. But it's really healthy when you come into a program that I like to say is, excuse my language, pissed off. I don't know if there's any better way for the freshman class to come into this program with a group of older players, a coaching staff, and administration that just wasn't happy about the way it ended. So everybody's on high alert, and everybody crosses their T's and dots their I's. And so, you let nothing slide, and it's harder on that freshman group. But as we've talked a lot about, we have to reset the standard. I can't tell you one exact reason why we didn't finish last year. We're preseason top 10. I mean, we're top 10 in the rankings, I think, with 2 weekends left to go. and to not make the tournament because we don't play well down the stretch. What I do know is the attention to detail, the ability to hold everyone accountable, the goal to reset the standard and make sure that everybody's on the same page. And that's been fun. It's challenging, but it's fun for the new guys. And then, of course, the older guys and it's a weird mix of older guys because of that COVID year. Your junior class, to me, it's a glorified sophomore class because the junior class has really only played one full year. And you think about it, they were freshmen on the preseason number one ranked team in the country. How many freshmen are playing in the first 15 to 17 games for the number one ranked team in the country? So they just didn't get a freshman year. So last year was their freshman year. And then all the true sophomores, last year was their freshman year. So I look at like 20 players in our sophomore and junior classes, and I go, okay, this is their sophomore year. And if I'm going to brag about Roger Williams and Eric Snyder and Adam Vrabel in this program is give us a year. Give us 1 year with these kids, and let's see how much they grow from year 1 to year 2. And that's why I'm excited about the sophomore and the junior class because I think they're going to become some household names, and we're going to have some guys emerge as stars that, right now the college baseball world doesn't realize they're stars. Again, yet.
Dan, you mentioned this being a program that's, quote, pissed off. You see a sense of urgency from the guys who are coming back that, like, hey, we have something to prove this offseason?
Well, I think, yes, and I think everybody goes into the new year with new excitement and new energy. I think what we have to take from that is when we hit a tough spell. I think the most frustrating thing from last year was when things were going bad, we couldn't recover. It's just not normal for our program that finishing is something we take pride in. It's like the bottom quote, the word on my clipboard, like the ability to finish and everything, the job, the task, the practice, the class, the assignment, the grade, you name it, like the ability to finish. So it's more about putting yourself in a position to be prepared when something bad happens, a bad game, a bad weekend, whatever. We can regroup. We trust the process. We're holding each other accountable. We'll be fine. Because you see it a lot in athletics. Teams might have these tough spells, and then they get into the postseason, and then they regroup and make this run, right? And you're talking about the Braves, and you look at the Braves season last year, no one thinks they're winning the World Series, 3/4 of the way through it. Just get to the postseason, and let's see what we can become. And that's, for me, the most frustrating thing was we were trying to crawl into the postseason, and we just wanted to get that clean slate, start over, and because we did have some scary pieces to our club. But if we didn't do enough to earn it, we didn't do enough to earn it. And I just think we'll be in a better spot this year when something bad happens.
Going down to Florida, you mentioned, there's going to be guys that are going to emerge, competition, resetting the standard. Obviously, you'd like to come back with 3 wins, but what's your hope, to accomplish down in the opening season?
It's to compete, to play hard. We'll learn a lot about this club. We're playing 3 teams that were in the NCAAs last year, 3 really good programs, that you got to compete. You just want to see guys compete. And yes, you'd love to have success. And, we've been doing this long enough to we've been 2-1 or 1-2 in the opening weekend, and we go to Omaha, and we're 3-0 in the opening weekend, and you don't get out of a postseason or so I've made the comment to our players, the season's not going to make or break what we do in that opening weekend. It's just let's stick together, let's compete, and let's understand guys are going to get opportunities. And really that's why to have the starting lineup or know the rotation or all these things, some years, you're pretty good, 70%, 80%, maybe 90%. Other years, you just got to let it play out. And and really it happens to freshmen every year. I don't remember sitting here talking about Brendan McKay when he was a freshman. I didn't know he was going to be the National Freshman of the Year. I didn't know Devin Hairston was going to be the starting shortstop. Last year, I didn't know Christian Knapczyk was going to emerge as the starting shortstop. You know they're good. You know they're talented when you're in your program, but you realize with freshmen, it's just going to take time, And so, you talk about the older guys, you lean on the older guys, you give them the opportunity, and little by little, you give some young guys chances, and you just got to let it play out. Baseball, you really got to let it play out because there's something different when you put a different uniform on your opponent and they're in that other dugout and the umpire says play ball. As they say, when the lights are on, there's just something different about scrimmaging against each other and the comfort of an inner squad as opposed to, playing another opponent and who handles that. If you call it pressure, some better than others.
Dan, I know you said closer is something that it's going to take some time to kind of figure out. I feel like at this level, most pitchers, they want to be a starter in that weekend rotation. But with this program, that position is also celebrated, which may not be across the country.
It is right, and that's why it seems to be the question I get every year. So that's why I bring it up now, because if I don't bring it up, someone's going to ask me, and I'm going to smile. And I think it's a compliment to Roger Williams in the history of our pitching staff. We traditionally have had great closers. I think we've had 2 Stopper of the Year awards. It's kind of like the Heisman Trophy for the best closer in the country, and twice. And we probably 3 or 4 times we could have been on the verge of winning it with really strong candidates. So, it is something, guys, in our program. Everybody loves to be a starter, but some people realize their stuff plays better when they're only throwing to 3 hitters. And so a guy like Michael Persecki, who you guys are going to meet with in a little bit. I mean, it's a super talented left-handed pitcher. Even though he's a junior, again, I kind of call him that, sophomore +1. And I think he's a prime candidate, had a great summer in the Cape Cod League, was an all-star. Stuff really plays up. Tough kid, works hard. I think Michael is a guy that will definitely get opportunities to pitch late into the game and possibly close. And I think, a sophomore like Corbett, where Caleb had some flashes of success early in the season. And for a freshman, he wasn't necessarily pitching like a typical freshman. I thought he emerged as a guy that could be special. So you feel like you got a couple candidates in there, and a Caleb Corbett and a Michael Persecki. And then, a swing guy for us is always Carter Lohman, because he is so talented. And you do this in college baseball sometimes. You have you just let a guy finish the game out. So Lohman's the type of guy, if the ball gets flipped to him in the 6th or 7th, don't be surprised we just let him finish out. Like, he's so strong and durable. He could, if he's rolling, he could give you 3 innings like that, and you can let him finish the game. And that's what you'll see early on in the season, is usually there's more than one guy that'll have a save on the stat sheet.
Yeah, Dan, taking into account, you just kind of mentioned you're still experimenting with lineups, but, in the past you've had teams that have had strong pitching, teams that have had strong offense. Early on, do you think pitching will kind of get things going early on to lead the way, or do you think offense might be able to?
You say that, you're right. There's some years, man, the pitching staff, the Detmers and the Miller, and rightfully so, those guys get all the last year was the hitters, we're getting all the love. Davis and Benelis and Dunn, and again, they earned that right, and to me it's pretty 50-50. We've got such a group of guys, maybe just a little under the radar, with all those sophomores and juniors, that I don't think anybody's going to walk into the preseason and think the team's centered on us, the offense, or the team's centered on the pitching staff. I think the pitching staff has a lot of talent and depth in it, and the goal for them is, and we've addressed this, just get outs. I mean, to make it as simple as we can make it in the world of pitching, be committed to getting outs. Don't get caught up. I get it as I get a question about the closer role and the Friday night starter, and those have been sexy roles in our program, and we have put a lot of stars in those roles, and they're on the All-American wall. But they had to earn that, and you earned it by getting outs. Keep it as simple as possible. So I feel like we've got 12 to 14 to 15 pitchers that have a real strong ability to get out. And it's going to be interesting to see from Poland and Keener and some of your older guys all the way down to some of the freshmen in a Koger or a Liggett or a Grundy and those younger guys, and then all the talented guys in the middle, the sophomores and the juniors. So I think they're in a good spot, and I feel the same about our offense. When I break down our lineup, I say, and I did it for Coach Snyder and Coach Vrabel the other day, I got 4 or 5 guys that are rocks. And a lot of teams have that. Your first 4 or 5 guys in the lineup, it's pretty. Then I got 4 or 5 guys that I trust. They've bought in. They work their tail off. I just need them to relax and play. And it's nice if they get off to a good start. And if they don't get off to a good start, how do you handle them? And that's the challenge for coaches, like, and it's hard to not think I didn't handle certain guys as well as I should have last year. Not out of lack of effort, just not making the right decision, the right words, the right timing. And so I have those 4 or 5 guys that 4 or 5 rocks and 4 or 5 guys, that's 10 guys I feel really good about with, 4 or 5 others that let's just see. They're usually freshmen and they're talented, or they're just a little unproven and you just don't know if they're going to repeat. And that gives you your 15 hitters. So your 15 pitchers and your 15 hitters, I feel really good about where this club's at right now.
And you've made a living off of guys who redshirt, then turning into something special. I know you had a few guys redshirt last year. What are your expectations for some of them?
That's the sophomore class. Part of that redshirt was the carryover from COVID. When Lucas Dunn and Luke Brown and those players were back last year. You won't typically get those players back for a senior year, and so guys that redshirted because of the COVID year, you had Isaac Humphrey, Logan Beard, JT Benson, are 3 position players that I don't want to say who, but they're in those top 10. They're 1 or 2's in the rock, and 1 or 2 is in the I trust, and they work hard. And I think those 3 have a chance to be in the lineup a lot. I really feel good about. And again, that's add Peyton and Napchik, who were the 2 freshmen that played. That's 5 sophomores that I think have a chance to be really, really good college baseball players, and maybe past that because of what Snyder and Vrabel do with those position players every year. Usher is, one of the more talented guys on the field, and I'll admit I just didn't handle him well last year, and not out of lack of effort, just but man, that is a special talent. And when you have talent like that, you want them to perform at the level they're capable of, and we've done that with most of our players in this program. Levi has a chance in coming back for another year, but again, Levi was a junior college transfer in the COVID year. Didn't even start off the year. We open up at Ole Miss. He's not in the starting lineup the first game. And then 17 games later, the season's over. So his real freshman year was last year. This is his real second year in our program. So we throw him into those group of position players and pitchers that feel like, man, the longer you're in this program, you start to figure it out and you make the adjustments. And so, Levi is one of those guys that if he get off to a good start. And then you have some older players, a Masterman, a Bianco, a Metzinger. As a coach, you just like the balance that you have. You like the balance of older players and guys coming off tough years or maybe coming back from an injury. There's enough pieces there.
Dan, you mentioned Metzinger and Masterman. Just kind of talk about the growth you've seen from them and kind of what you expect from them. They have had pretty good careers here in the last couple of years.
Well, you trust them. And they're going to prepare. They're going to show up every day. They're going to do anything they can to help this team win. As I like to say, they'll run through a wall for this program. They're going to give you everything they got. and so whether they have a great game or an average game or below average game, which is part of the game of baseball, you trust them, and they're going to do everything right, and they're going to help others. I think the longer you're in the program and the mature you become, you start to realize this is not all about me. I need to start bringing some others along with me, and that's what will be interesting about if we hit a tough patch this year, how the older guys can rally to bring others along with them. And that's where a Metzinger and a Masterman and some of these older guys, they're going to have to lead. As we say, if you come in here for one of our team meetings, all those guys sit in these first 2 rows, all my older guys, which is funny because I've been to a Bellarmine basketball locker room meeting, and all their older guys sit in the back, and they make like the freshmen sit up front. Ours is different. Like all of our older guys sit up front and all the freshmen sit in the back. So our saying is, the front of the room has to lead the back of the room. And that's not me standing up here. That's the guys who sit in those first 2 rows. Like they have to lead.
And kind of follow to that, Metzinger, he's played a little bit of everywhere in the infield. Just kind of how important is his flexibility? Because I know he played catcher before. He played third when McDonnell was hurt. Just kind of his flexibility.
We seem to have that guy every year, right? That Ben Zobrist, which I guess, what was it, Kike Hernandez last year? Like, we seem to have that one guy every year, and you go back to Drew Ellis. Devin Mann wanted to be that guy, but I wouldn't let him, so he played second. But Lucas Dunn was that ultimate versatile guy, and that's what Metzinger is. Metzinger can catch. He's skilled enough to catch. We try to take care of his health and his back, and he could do it in emergency. We don't know if he could do it for 3 months, and maybe pro ball. Maybe he'll go back to the opportunity to catch in pro ball. But for us, third base, I'm playing him at short, maybe just to be a backup shortstop. He can play second. He can play first. He can play just about anywhere on the field. And that's where, as players in baseball, you learn you're not competing necessarily with the guy standing next to you. Maybe in football you are, and in basketball you are. In baseball, you're really competing with the other 12 to 14 hitters. Because if I can be one of those best 6 or 8 hitters, more times than not, we can find a spot for you in the lineup. And Metzinger gives you that versatility that, hey, if there's another third baseman playing really good, if Willie Cook's playing really good, or Noah Smith, or Brandon Anderson, one of those other young infielders is playing really good, like Knapczyk last year, we could slide Metzinger somewhere else, And so I always remind the position players, don't just be concerned with the guy to your right or left. You're competing with all the position players, and that's where Metzinger gives us a huge advantage.
And with losing Henry, obviously number 1 pick, and he did so many things, and he actually played more last year than maybe you have had your catcher before. Do you anticipate kind of moving parts back there?
I'm sure Dalton Rushing's wanting me to say I'm going to catch him like I caught Henry Davis. Dalton is like a Metzinger in a sense, where Dalton can play multiple positions. So he's fortunate he don't have to just catch and watch from the dugout or DH. Jack Payton is a really reliable, I call him an old school catcher, and Jack, I don't know, he started 7 games as a freshman with the number 1 pick in the draft. I guarantee you there's not another team in the country that has a backup that started 7 games if you have the first pick of the draft. Now, you can say that's poor coaching by me, and we probably won, I think, a handful or most of those games that Jack caught, but I've always been a big get my second catcher and then just let it play out. Just let it play out. And we even go into those first few weekends, hey, Dalton, you'll catch Poland this weekend, and Jack, you'll catch Keener, and then the next weekend we'll flip on purpose, just so we have options, we have comforts. I think as a coach, I probably worry more about who my backup shortstop is than maybe others. I just, it's kind of obvious who my starting shortstop is, but what happens if somebody rolls their ankle or they wake up? Of course, last year with all the tracing and positives, and it was like, gosh, that seemed like I was just so worried about who was the next guy, because I don't want to make excuses, and I don't want to forfeit, and I don't want to say we don't have enough. No, we got enough. It might be a young guy, but I'm gonna have a guy ready to step in and play. So I feel really good with our 2 catchers right now. Always have a third or fourth in an emergency, but those 2 we trust.
Do 1 or 2 more if you got it.
Do you, I mean, as far as pitching goes, I mean, do you anticipate the competition going until next week? I mean, do you and Raj have a plan on what, like how far do you want somebody to know, hey, you're getting the ball first game?
I think usually after this last set of scrimmages, Coach Williams will start calling guys in. I think this group, having witnessed what they saw last year and what our words have been, it's not, don't get too high because you're pitching in this role on this date. Like, it just, be excited you're getting an opportunity to pitch, and let's just get outs. And the reality is, going into the first weekend, I like to think you need 6 starters to play 3 games because of pitch counts, and we see this in pro ball throughout the year. I'm not saying we want to be like that throughout the year, but I think early on to start the year, you need 2 guys, 2 and 2. And so I probably throw Poland and Keener around because I think maybe they've been the most consistent older guys. Ferris has pitched really well. Hawks is coming off the arm injury last year. Phillips is a sophomore that has a lot of talent. Webster's a junior that Webster seems to be, you always have those Hoeings or Bordners or guys in the bullpen that, man, they can give you a lot of outs. So we feel like we got a lot of swing guys, kind of like your Metzingers and Rushings in those pitching roles. So whether you're starting the first 3 innings or the middle 3 or the last, hey, man, just get outs. Let's be committed to getting outs. And so I think it's just going to have to play itself out. I think it's just going to I think Nick Bennett was one of the last freshmen to start opening weekend. Many don't. So even my young guys who are really talented, let's just let it play out. Let's get outs and let's do our best to win and come out on the winning end and let all that stuff kind of, again, let's just stick to the process, right? Like just stick to the process. We're trying to simplify this as best we can and play good Louisville baseball.
Dan, how you've mentioned let it play out a couple times, or quite a few. How long are you comfortable letting things play out before you kind of want to settle in on something?
Well, it really comes down to who's having success. It doesn't mean you have to be perfect and you have to live with hitters going over and you have to live with a pitcher has a bad inning, and you just have to evaluate, I mean, that's we try to prepare these kids, and I always say one of the greatest lines Coach Williams said, and it's been a staple in our program, we prepare you to move through the next level. We prepare you that when you cross the line into pro ball, you are ready to move. The only way you're going to be able to move is to compete and have success. And so while you're in this program, compete. Every time the ball's flipped to you and every time you get a chance to be in the lineup, don't tighten up. You don't squeeze the ball. We trust your ability. Relax. But you got to earn it. You got to earn it every time you're out there. And I think in the world of pitching, I go back to the Justin Amlongs and guys that the ball was getting flipped to him and he was running out of the bullpen. Let's start this guy on a Tuesday. Wow, let's start this guy on Sunday. Before you know it, he's your Friday night starter and he's the conference pitcher of the year and he's an All-American. Not because anything was promised to Justin Amlong, he earned it. And I think that's the emphasis we've gotten in this program. Made sure, and it's almost a blessing, we don't get a lot of preseason love. And we don't have preseason All-Americans. And we don't have all these guys getting accolades because most of them haven't done a whole lot for a body of work. They've done it in spurts. So now it should be like, man, just be happy that ball gets flipped to you and take advantage of the opportunity and run out there and compete. And I promise you, we've made that clear to this group. I can't say it'll happen. I'm confident it'll happen, but they know what's at stake and what's expected of them.
Matt's got the last one.
I know there were some hiccups in this area last season, but where do you think the squad is defensively speaking now?
I mean, everybody wants to be really good defensively. And I always tell the kids, it's hard to play. It's hard for me to put you out there, and so as much as we we talk about offense and hitting and trying to get your best 8, 9 guys in the lineup. Hitters, I got to put guys out there that I trust, and we feel like defensively. I think Usher, talent-wise, is arguably one of the best defensive center fielders in the country. If you watch the game and you watch him run around out there, I think that's nice to have a special defense. You'd like to be special in center field. It makes everybody else better out there. But I trust Masterman. I trust Humphrey. I trust Benson. I think Hawkins and Sang have to use their speed to be plus defenders. So we feel good about our outfield. In our infield, you got Knapchick and Metzinger on one side of the field. I mean, those are two guys that you trust. On the right side, you got Beard emerging as a guy that's really worked on his defense and can be one of those guys under the radar. You got a Noah Smith, who's a talented freshman. And then first base, to me, is going to be – it's just up for grabs. But those first basemen, I met with them. If I play you, I'm playing you because I trust you defensively. You got to show me I value as an infield guy the first base position as much as anybody. And we saw it. It took Benella's time. Knapchick forced everybody had to rotate, and it took Benella's time. I don't ever want you guys to think first base is an easy position to play. I think it's one of the more important. If catching is that important, and we know the value of pitching, you could argue first base in those top 3 or 4 because they're involved in so much. So I feel good in general about our defense, and we just got to give opportunities for guys to run out there and compete.
All right, Coach.
All right, thank you.